Hey everyone, welcome to episode 5 of season 2. We are so happy that you have stayed on and listened to at least 5 episodes, hopefully, of our second season. And today's topic is pretty cool. Chris put it together, and we've been really feeling aliens lately, so we wanted to talk some more about them. I think for me, that comes from the balloons that are happening and all the alien sightings that we're kind of getting reports on. Fun alien story. You guys will appreciate this. The other day, Adam and I got a free hotel room at this fancy swanky hotel, courtesy of a volunteer organization I'm a part of. And we had to drive separately there. So he meets me there and he comes in and I was like, "Are you ready, buddy?" And I was watching Ancient Aliens and I was like, "This is what we're going to do tonight in the hotel room." So we ate tacos and watched Ancient Aliens, and let's be honest, it was a glorious night.
That sounds like a dream come true for you.
Right?
Yeah. I love some Ancient Aliens.
Right? All right, Chris, tell us what our topic is today.
So today we're going to be talking about the Maury Island Incident. I believe I'm saying that word correctly. It looks like Maury and not the famous TV host. This is not your baby, or you are not the father, rather. Hopefully that's close enough. So it's about two guys doing some fishing logging, I guess you'd say, that encounter some weird stuff, and then some aftermath around that. After that, it's it happened before a lot of the other sightings happened in the UFO world. But it just wasn't reported till after. So that makes me think it's a little fishy, but it also could fall in line with the story. So we'll delve deep into that after we do our Wacky World News.
All right, Angela, over to you. Wacky World News.
Oh, our favorite topic. So in keeping with the weird, I guess, or wacky couples news, on February 23rd of this year, there was an article in the UK in which a bride found her groom being breastfed by his mother moments before walking down the aisle.
Hold the phone. So grandma was breastfeeding child.
No, mother-in-law.
Mother was breastfeeding her grown son.
Yep.
Oh. I totally, that's worse. That's worse.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
So,
for our listeners, you can't see Christopher's face, but when he got it, it was like a, what kind of facial expression? It was classic.
He was that emoji where it's just like, oh.
Yes. Yeah. So definitely. What would you do in that situation?
I think it's hard from my aspect. I guess it's no different than I walked in and my bride to be was breastfeeding on her mother. I feel like it's less likely for some reason, as weird as that sounds, that it would be daughter on mom than it would be son on mother. But that seems some underlining stuff there. And my question is it just the act of it, or was there actually fluid transferred?
So,
well, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah, so the article doesn't really go into it. So the makeup artist that was working on the bride was there when it happened. So it states that she told how the bride-to-be went to the loo just before the ceremony was due to start, where she came face-to-face or breast with the love of her life, the groom, and his mom breastfeeding him.
So my thought is you have to be actively breastfeeding, right, for it to not dry up. So either this mom is young and banging out kiddos still, or she's been actively breastfeeding her children who are grown adults.
So I've heard that, you said it's very true that you have to keep it up for it to continue after having a child. But I've heard also that if you, as a woman, if you continue to pump or have it drawn on, via something, that it could cause it to start producing, even if there's no child involved. Because there's talks of I know stories I've heard of women that have had kids in the past, and they hear a really crying baby, and it'll cause them to lactate a little bit. So I think it is, that's not as much of a mystery as the son and mom still doing it at that age.
And then, how do you position yourself? I'm imagining that the son's probably taller than the mom. Did he lay down and she leaned over?
Yeah.
Chris, next time you see your mom, you're going to be so weirded out because all you're going to think about is this conversation.
I know. Not looking forward to it.
Poor Aunt Sherry. And
you can't even tell her, because I think Sherry would be like, "What are you talking about?"
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she definitely wouldn't get it.
So the whole article, the story was shared by the makeup artist with a UK wedding planner and the host of a comedy podcast called Unfiltered Bride. So as she retold the story to the podcast host, Georgie recently told her story to the Baffled co-host Beth. Georgie started the story saying that Jenny, who's what we're calling the makeup artist's name, the bride needed to go to the toilet just before the ceremony. She walked into the toilet, and what she saw was enough to end a wedding. She built up the tension, allowing Beth to guess what she could have possibly saw, with her initially assuming that the groom was cheating on her or taking drugs. But Georgie kept pushing her, saying that to the bride's discovery was much worse than anything she had said. And to Beth's horror and the horror of the shocked listeners, Georgie eventually revealed he was being breastfed by his mom. To which Beth replied, "Sorry, what? Why would you marry a man who still breastfeeds?" But Georgie added, "I don't think she knew that was happening." And the podcast pair reflected on why his mom would still be producing milk, which is obviously something we had talked about as well. And they decided that her mother-in-law had obviously been doing continuously to get to that point. But despite this, they're both married now. So
wait, what?
I guess it wasn't. Yeah, the couple decided to still get married.
They went through with it? No.
Thank you.
Now, this is all speculation, but do we think that once they have children, he will expect her to also feed him? I mean, I guess it saves down in...
Yes.
Guaranteed.
Yes. I guess it saves money, right?
100%. I feel the woman's fate is close to an end if they have kids and she's unable to breastfeed for any kind of reason.
I'm going to ask Adam.
Because it's going to go to the grandmother.
Oh my God.
Yep. Grandma is going to be
the grandmother is preparing for when they have kids to breastfeed her grandchildren?
She's probably got a freezer
She's
full of milk.
She's going to be the nurse.
I mean, damn.
Yeah, this was a doozy for sure.
I don't think I would have gone through with the wedding. Am I alone in this?
That's what I'm saying. I want to hear your guys' point of view, because this could have been or could be you. Okay. Just saying, this could be a thing for you guys, as you are a female, and could have happened.
I just asked Adam what he would do, so I'm very curious to find out. But I don't. It's just weird to me. I have a weird thing about people who breastfeed their kid when they have a full mouth of teeth. I get it into a
100%.
certain part, but the second they have all 26 teeth, is it 26 teeth that people have?
Yeah. And my thing
is that how many alphabets there are?
My thing is the teeth is yes, but if they're able to ask for it,
yes,
then that's when it needs to stop. My opinion. And if you do, I know there's a lot of people that do it past that, and to each their own. But right. I know for me, yeah, if you're able to ask for it, I think we've moved past it.
I feel like for me, I would start questioning my life choices.
Yeah, like, how did I miss this?
Right.
So I asked Adam what he would do, and he informed me that he would just keep breastfeeding if he was caught. Might as well finish the job.
Okay.
Oh, God.
So here's my follow-up question to the whole situation. Do you think she pumps and he keeps a stash of her milk in the fridge somewhere?
Brilliant question.
I don't think so. And I don't think that's the reason why it's done. I think the reason why he does it is the act of like being close to his mom. I don't think it's for the nutritional side of it. That's just an assumption.
Look.
But he'd still be close to her having it in the fridge, just not physically there.
That I am obsessed with my mother. Like, very unhealthily obsessed with her. But that would never happen. There are other ways to be close to your mother. Go hang out with her, watch Hallmark.
I think it wouldn't be the same. Like, yeah, it still comes from your mom, but it wouldn't be the same because you just pull it out of the fridge freezer and nuke it a little bit.
Put it in your coffee.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, what comes to mind for me is, have you guys seen The Boys on Amazon?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Love that show.
So do you remember there's that scene where Homelander and Elizabeth Shue's character have a similar situation?
Yes. I forgot about that.
And then, sorry, our listeners, it's a little bit of a spoiler, but where he finds the milk that she's already pumped and like drinks it later in another episode.
Yes.
Like, this is what the situation has me thinking about.
So,
yeah,
that's a good point. It could be beyond that. It could be beyond what I thought, because I forgot about that. But I think his was
a fictional show.
Yeah, but I think his was more that he didn't have a mother per se, so that was a way for him to have that bond, because it felt like anybody that he was with, he kind of wanted them to be a motherly type in a sense. But either way, it could be I don't know the rest of this guy's situation, so it could be something similar to that.
So I tried to go to the Google machine because I was curious to see if there was some statistic about how many adults are still breastfed.
Uh-oh.
Not looking at the images, in case anyone's wondering.
I was going to say, because that is, I would assume, super dangerous.
Avoid the images.
But they don't, there's no statistics, so it definitely seems like something we're not talking about.
I mean, clearly it happens.
But right. It does say that adults can consume breast milk, that it's, has a ton of important things like that help kiddos and stuff like that. So,
I don't know how true this is, but years ago when I was working out real heavy, there was I guess at this point it'd be a rumor going around that people were in supplement instead of like testosterone or something like that. They would use like breast milk as like a stimulant in a sense because of the nutritional benefits that it has. So whether how true that is, I never saw anybody do it or whatever, but I remember that as a rumor going around that it's for people like working out and stuff. It has like extreme health benefits in that sense.
I mean, that makes sense, but I don't think I would ever want to drink milk before a workout. Milk was a bad choice.
True.
Very true.
Also, like, milk is fine. I don't love milk. Like, I put some cream in my coffee, and like, I did have milk the other day because I was eating Oreos, but only because I was eating Oreos. Like, if there was not a cookie to dunk instead milk, I'm not drinking it.
See, I'm a little different. I don't do cream in my coffee unless it's iced coffee. I don't really drink milk, even if there is cookies to dunk. The only way I do milk is I have an unhealthy obsession with cereal. True story. Not like Special K and grape nuts or anything healthier. It's like peanut butter crunch or peanut butter Chex Mix cereal, stuff like that. And the other way is milk shakes and ice cream. Another
I
weakness
do
of
like
mine.
milkshakes and ice cream. Absolutely.
And they have a healthy amount of milk in each if you're getting the right stuff. But sitting down and drinking like chocolate milk or just a glass of milk, I can't do it. I did find, Manda, and you'd like to hear this. We have Rutter's up where I live, and they have mint chocolate chip chocolate milk.
Like to drink?
Yeah. So it's basically
good?
like I get it. I found it recently. It's probably why I've put on extra weight here recently. Another story. But I instead of like putting milk in to make a milkshake, I put that in to make my mint moose track milkshake. Oh my God. Change your life. I still have not had the balls yet to try putting peanut butter in mint chocolate chip. I still have yet to try that. But
Moose track, right?
Well, mint moose track, for those that don't know, is very hard to find. I think Hershey's ice cream is the only one that I've ever seen make it. And I know like Hershey's ice cream makes like Weiss's ice cream and a couple other places. So you might be able to find it that way. But it's mint chocolate chip ice cream with like a fudge ripple in it. And then it has like these big chunks of like mint chocolate. So it's like chunks of chocolate, but it has like a minty taste to it. And it is like so good. It's way better than just plain old mint chocolate chip.
So you just have to take it to the next step.
I know. I'm so afraid. I'm so afraid.
No, it's
Emma did it.
Good.
Emma did it. She likes it.
Emma like it?
Yeah.
Peanut butter and mint chocolate chip ice cream is, this is all thanks to Friendly's, right? But like Friendly's did it to me once when I was a kid, and they put a little little cone and the little eyes, what do they call that thing?
The cone head?
The cone head, yeah. And I just remember being like, this is heaven.
Yeah. She came up with it because that's all, like I keep the peanut butter if I have like a peanut butter type ice cream, and all we had at the time was mint chocolate chip, but she really wanted to use the peanut butter stuff. I said, well, you could do that. She was okay. I said, Aunt Mimi likes that. So she loved it.
So
I just didn't have the heart to try it.
Next time.
But you have to it also depends on the peanut butter. Listeners, I know you're wondering about this, so I'm going to tell you. You either have to have like really, really good but terrible for you peanut butter. So mine of choice is Peter Pan honey. Creamy, don't do crunchy. Or you get like the Hershey's peanut butter in like a container.
Like the ice cream topping?
Yeah. But I don't like that one as much.
We use the Reese's ice cream topping. It's like liquid peanut butter. Oh, so good.
That one is on par. And then you just like if you're going to use regular peanut butter, you just put it in the microwave for like 10 seconds. Get a little bit like liquidy, and then you put it up, and then it hardens a little bit. Ugh. Well, now I want ice cream. This is also probably why I put on some weight, because all I think about is
now I'm even more hungry than when we started.
Anyway, on better news. So that whole thing with the breastfeeding, I know. There's people out there, not to kink shame anybody, but there's people out there that are into that. I can't say that I've heard of an adult doing it with their mother like that, because that takes to another level. But I'm sure that's not the only one out there that does it. But wow. On the wedding day though, like you couldn't wait till like after you're married, or
what was so important? How to do it right then?
Yeah, was it
like a bathroom that someone's gonna find you? I guess there's no shame. She didn't seem shamed. She still married him.
So I wonder
I was just gonna say maybe it was like a stress reliever for him before the wedding, like just to calm him down.
Yep, that's what I was thinking. Is it was like a last minute boost of courage.
It was his pre-workout kicking in.
Yeah. That is fantastic.
I just couldn't go on with the wedding.
If you were the wife or soon to be wife?
Yeah, it just feels like they definitely kept something from me. And I would be horrified at what I just saw.
Well, that's the thing. Like, it's not like it's just you and mother-in-law and son. It's not like it's just the three of you witnessed this account. There was a fourth party there that witnessed it.
No, the makeup artist didn't. The bride told the makeup artist the story.
Oh.
Wait, you would tell somebody?
Yeah. Like, yes. Really?
I might tell you guys because you're like my closest friends, but
the makeup, like,
but
just
I tell you afterwards.
A makeup artist at a wedding, like, you may have like a short conversation, just like, hey, did you see the baseball game, or whatever. I don't know what women talk about, but anyway.
Yes, because we totally talk about baseball.
Yeah,
the day of our wedding.
Angela, we do talk about baseball.
I don't talk about baseball.
We did. Past tense.
I would ask if you've seen any like flying saucers or Bigfoot or something myself, but I figured normal people would ask like, hey, did you see the game last night? Not me, but some people might. But that to have that as the topic, like to tell somebody you probably just met, like a few hours before that, like that's crazy.
So there's like for when mine occurred, I knew who was doing my hair and makeup. So I already had that pre-established relationship with them. So maybe she did as well. And Amanda, I'm sure whenever you decide to have an actual ceremony when the viruses allow it.
Oh yeah, we're not doing that anymore.
Yeah, but you'll choose choose someone that you would know, not a complete stranger, because they would know like what you like, how you want things done.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely get to know them. I think even if it was like someone I knew really well, I still probably am not going to come out and be like, guess what I just saw? I think I come out and be like horrified, and he would be following me and we would be having words. And those words would be like, guess who's paying my family back for all the money you just wasted tonight? Because we're not getting married and you got to go make your Tinder profile better.
That's what I'm wondering.
Guess who's paying for therapy?
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm wondering. Did they like continue with the wedding at that time? Or did they like postpone it or something?
Nope. Same day.
So how could you go and stand across this man that was just latched on to his mother's tit? Like, how could you do that?
And not re-see that in your head.
Yes. All I would see is tit and mouth, like while I'm standing there trying to like marry him if it were me. That is.
And I don't think
that's
she
a strong
has
woman right there.
Tit.
Well, my thing is, why would you still go through it? But two, if it's the same day, like, did you have a conversation with the groom before anything else transpired for the ceremony? Or did you just be like, oh, I'm too in shock just to speak or talk about this. So, but we're going to go get married anyway? Like, I don't like that.
So we don't know, but I also wonder if there was some cultural, like, if this groom and bride, maybe it was like an arranged marriage or like, because they still happen, right, in certain cultures. And the UK has like a really large, like, Indian and Pakistan like population, which those are common in those cultures to have like arranged or set up from your family. So I wonder if that was part of it too, and they were like, "Shit, what do I do?"
Yeah, I don't. Oh man, I don't know.
All right, let's talk about some aliens.
Yeah, let's move on from that because my mind's going all over the place. All right. So the Maury Island Incident. So this incident occurred in 1947. So it takes place, throwback to our Alien Encounters episode. Our first ever report of someone seeing UFOs formally is the 1947. I believe it was late June 1947. Maybe it was late June 1947. Kevin Arnold reported seeing UFOs while he was flying through Mount Rainier. But this takes place a few days before that, although it wasn't reported till after Kenneth Arnold reported his. So, in 1947, a common hazard in the waters of Puget Sound, where this incident takes place, were logs that floated to the surface. They just were, I guess, from lumber mills falling off. They do it in Louisiana a lot too, from lumber mills or trees that fell into the water. The type of trees they have, these logs would float to the surface and become a hazard for boaters going through. So several men worked as informal harbor patrol, and they would snag the logs and take them to the mills for salvage, and they would get paid for it. It's actually a big money thing now, especially in like Louisiana, where they had those lumber mills years ago, and the logs fell into the water, from the barges crashing or whatever, and the people go in there and dig them up and salvage them, and it's like apparently really, really good wood because the water does something to it and makes it like even better. And it's like a big, big money. And they're huge trees. So Harold Dahl worked on one of these boats, and his supervisor on shore was Fred Krisman. So on June 21st, Dahl reported he was on his patrol boat with two men, his son and their dog. Around 2 p.m, Dahl's boat approached the east shore of Maury Island. Maury Island is now attached to the Vatian Island by a causeway road, and it's about 6 miles west of Des Moines, Washington. So Dahl said he looked in the sky and saw 6 objects floating about 2,000 feet above his vessel. The objects were made of some reflective material, and they were like donut shaped. So they were kind of like the normal saucer shape you would see, but instead of being complete, there was like a hole in the center of it. And they were about 100 feet in diameter. The center holes were about 25 feet in diameter. He also saw round portholes and what he thought was an observation window. 5 of the craft circled over the 6th, which dropped slowly. It stopped and hovered about 500 feet above the water. So that 6th ship appeared to be like in distress somehow, like it was malfunctioning, whatever. So Dahl put to shore because he was afraid the center craft was going to crash into his boat. Once ashore, Dahl took several pictures with his camera. So these pictures I was unable to find. I'm sure they're out there somewhere, possibly, but I was unable to find the pictures he allegedly claimed. So the lower ship stayed in position for about 5 minutes, but the others still circling above. One of the ships left the formation and moved down, touching the lower ships. The two kept contact for several minutes until Dahl said he heard a thud. Suddenly, thousands of pieces of what he thought were newspapers dropped from the inside of the center ship. Most of the debris landed on the bay, though some did hit the beach. Dahl actually recovered a few of the pieces. It was lightweight metal. Along with the white metal, the ship dropped about 20 tons of dark metal, which he said looked like lava rock. When the lava rock hit the water, it also had this hot steam that erupted. They took cover after several pieces landed on his boat, damaging it. Some debris hit his son on an arm, burning him, and another piece killed the dog. So the dog that was with him didn't make it. He was hit by a piece of lava rock or whatever was falling from the vessel.
The poor dog.
Can I ask a question? So
Yeah.
it's the guy, I remember his name. You told us, but I forgot already.
Dahl.
Harold.
And then Harold's
Harold Dahl.
son and Harold's son, and then a dog, and then 2 other men, or that's just
No.
Harold, his son, and the dog.
Yeah.
Harold, his son, and his dog. There's only one spot I saw that there was other men with them, but I believe the other men were on shore because he said.
Oh, okay.
Because most of the stuff that it takes event on the boat, it's only referred to as the son, him, and the dog. It's like nobody else was physically on the boat that I could see. It seems like there might have been another guy, the foreman or whatever that was on shore.
Okay, I was like confused at first when you were like saying everyone's name, but I was like,
Yeah.
who? Sorry.
So yeah, Krisman's on shore. So Dahl gave Krisman the camera, and when the prints were developed, they showed the strange airships. However, the negative had negatives, before digital pictures, because this is 1947. The negatives from the photos had spots on them, which he compared to be film damage or exposure to radiation. Crimson said he did not believe Dahl's story, but nevertheless, he went back to Maury Island where he gathered some rock samples. He said that while he was gathering the rocks, one of the airships appeared overhead as if it were watching him. So the airship, watching him pick up the debris. Dahl told investigators the next morning a man wearing a black suit visited him and suggested they go to breakfast together. Dahl drove his car following the stranger's new black Buick to a restaurant. While they ate, the stranger asked no questions. Instead, he gave a detailed account of what had happened to Dahl the day before. The man in black warned Dahl that bad things would happen to Dahl and his family if he told anyone about the incident. So this is our first ever case of someone reporting, an incident between the men in black, I guess is the best way to say it. The way it's described is it seems very Men in Blackish, the arriving out of nowhere, forcing him to go with him to, whatever location, a public location, and making these threats if they don't, stop talking about what they saw, that bad things are going to happen, etc. So Dahl and Crimson sent a pack.
I don't know if I would follow someone to breakfast unless, the conversation would be longer. Because I feel like first I'd be like, well, I'm not really a breakfast person, but is there mimosas? And can we go a little later? I'd make sure it wasn't like Waffle House or the Village Inn, that we were maybe going to somewhere like Bacon Social. And obviously, it depends on the day. Is there reservations? And what if I have work?
Right.
And I would question where I got his Buick from.
I would definitely take him on it. Everybody likes free breakfast.
Yeah. I mean, I'd be all for it, but I guess anyone in a well-dressed suit, you would think in 1947 would be a government official. So maybe he knew it was some sort of government official before this, and it was like, oh, okay, I will agree to this.
He obviously didn't have a ring camera, because I just look at my Ring camera and I'm like, nope, ignoring you.
Well, it is 1947, but
I guess that's true.
So Dahl and Crimson sent the package to the publisher, Ray Palmer, in Chicago. A year or two later, Palmer founded Fate magazine. Just so you know, the package contained
Fate,
Fate magazine.
Okay, thank you.
The package contained a box of metal fragments and statements about the strange happenings on the 21st and 22nd of July. A few weeks later, Palmer contacted Kenneth Arnold. So this is Kenneth Arnold, who saw the crafts above Mount Rainier, and that's where the term flying saucers came from because of his description of what he'd saw. At this point, Mr. Kenneth Arnold has started to investigate UFO sightings. So Arnold arrived in Tacoma in late July with airline pilot E.J. Smith. The two of them met with Dahl and Crimson, and examined Dahl's boat and conducted interviews. Dahl and Crimson did not produce the pictures. However, Dahl also told Arnold that his son had disappeared. Dahl said later that his son was found waiting tables in Montana, but he could not remember how he got there. On the afternoon of July 31st, Captain Lee Davidson and First Lieutenant Frank Brown of the U.S. Army Air Force flew up to Tacoma from Hamilton Field, California. In addition to being pilots, the two men were intelligence specialists. They met with Arnold, Smith, and Crimson for several hours. One of the officers said that he thought there might be something to the story, but they had to leave around midnight. They were in a hurry to be at Hamilton Field on August 1st, the day when the Air Force was to split from the Army. The two officers flew out to McCord Airfield around 2 o'clock in the morning on a B-25 bomber with a crew of two other men. About 20 minutes later, the airplane crashed near Centralia, Washington. The two enlisted men managed to parachute to safety, but Davidson and Brown were killed, making them the Air Force's first casualties. So how weird is that? That the two guys that thought there was something to the story and were going to look into it further, basically from the account, Captain Lee Davidson and First Lieutenant Frank Brown, They seemed like they were going to look into this further, but because of the big celebration or ceremony that was happening with the Air Force splitting from the Army, had to go back. So they flew, and the two enlisted men that were with them were able to parachute out and survive, but yet these two guys didn't make it. And that's very odd to me. It's almost like, if you go the Men in Black route, that the Men in Black got to them and were involved with these two enlisted men for some reason and got them to take out the two. That's a large accusation, but
no, but I think that that's what this whole podcast is about, making large accusations. And it makes sense when we think about it.
So Dahl and Crimson said that the Air Force officers took some of the strange metal on board with them. People thought they heard anti-aircraft guns shoot the plane down. So there was apparently witnesses that said when the plane was having trouble that they had heard what they explained as anti-aircraft weapons. But I'm not sure how solid that is. I mean, to be that specific of its anti-aircraft weapons in 1947, this seems a little odd to me. I mean, is there that many people in 1947 that are tuned in to what anti-aircraft weapon sounds like? I guess it's possible. This is
because the war, right? This is after the war.
Yeah, this is right around the end of World War II. It could be possible. I mean, they were using anti-aircraft like crazy, and specifically the Battle of Los Angeles, another UFO sighting I'd like to dive deep into. It's a short one though. So I mean, I guess it's possible, and maybe it was somebody that fought in the war and knows what they sound like. So I guess it's possible. I retract that statement. So the local newspapers and FBI received phone calls stating that the plane was shot down to cover up the information Brown and Davidson had found. Because of the loss of life, the Air Force broadened its investigation, and the FBI launched their own. The Air Force investigators determined that the crash had been a terrible accident. One of the engines caught fire and the men began bailing out. Before Brown and Davidson could jump out, a wing broke off and struck the tail section, which also broke off. The plane went into a tailspin, trapping the men inside. So another Air Force investigator spoke with Dahl and Crimson and visited their boat. He stated that the damage he saw did not match the damage the two sailors described. There were no piles of metal on Maury Island, and the existing samples looked like slag from a metal smelter. His conclusion matched that of the FBI investigator that Dahl and Crimson had faked the incident to gain publicity for a magazine article. Textbook, cleanup, cleanup crew. Go get rid of the material that's gathered on Maury Island, and then, downgrade the evidence they produce, say it looks like this, looks like that. Don't make it sound more than it is. And, accuse them of faking it. That's like textbook cleanup right there.
Yeah. I mean, we know that's like what they tell you for the publicity is kind of push the blame on someone else.
Yeah. So I whether their story is legit or not, I definitely see the Air Force trying to, clean that up, and understandably, they don't have an explanation of what it is. So if we were to get out something's unexplained at that time, I think it would have definitely caused mass panic. And my whole thing with aliens, I don't think they're fully a threat. At this point, I feel like if they were a threat, they could have wiped us out a long time ago. If they had any intentions of harming us in any way, they would have wiped us out quite some time ago, back in 1947. I mean, they've abducted people, and there's been some weird stuff happening with that. But it's not like they're out to obliterate the human race. It just doesn't add up. So the FBI warned Dahl and Crimson that their hoax had not succeeded, and that if they dropped the matter, the government would not prosecute the men for the fraud, which had resulted in the deaths of 2 officers. So they flipped it around and said that they would, if they dropped their claims, that they would not go after them for the deaths of the 2 Air Force officers that they apparently caused by reporting the matter. So that's another thing. That'd be a hard sell nowadays to pin that on somebody just for making a claim. But it definitely would make somebody rethink their motives, you know? So at first, Dahl and Crimson went along. They made statements that the story was fake and simply refused to give interviews on the matter. But a few years later, in the January 1950 issue of Fate magazine, which Mr. Palmer had started, Crimson stated that the incident had happened and Kenneth Arnold included Maury Island in his 1952 book, The Coming of the Saucers. Today, most people believe that Crimson and Dahl faked the incident, perpetrating a hoax that got out of control. Other people believe that the U.S. government was behind the conspiracy, may have been involved from anything to UFOs dumping nuclear waste in Puget Sound. They also believe that there's some sort of shadow government agency, and they sabotaged the B-25 bomber in order to eliminate the investigators and blame Dahl and Crimson. So I think that's three of those is pretty good for the outcome of it. I mean, I definitely think, or all three, I think there is definitely something to their claim. I mean, they had evidence to back it up. So I think they just, like I said, they couldn't explain it, the government. So they just came up with a nonsense, explanation and put the doubt on the witnesses.
Make them look less credible.
Yeah.
I think that's the easy way out, right? Especially as you're trying to not cause panic or stir. You're like, they're just crazy. So they're just trying to get attention.
Yep.
I mean, I don't honestly, in our lifetime, I don't think that the government's ever going to tell us about aliens, even though I think that we've had lots of encounters. I think the only way we're going to find out about it is because the aliens are going to tell us. If that makes sense.
I think they're slowly letting us know what's going on. I think they know, and I think know that they've reached a point that they can't hold it under wraps forever. It's been 50 years, or no, it's been longer than that. It's been
70 years.
70 years, yeah, of when the first sighting happened, when it first came out.
So do you think that we'll find out about aliens soon? They're going to confirm? I mean, I already know they exist, but are they going to confirm it?
I think so. I think eventually they'll come out and say that, that there's something out there. I think they're just easing us into it and seeing how we react. I mean, it goes back to the, what was that famous radio broadcast that caused everybody to freak out back in the 40s or 50s?
Oh, yeah. The World of War, not World of War. Didn't they redo a movie?
Yeah, it had Tom Cruise in it and everything. Oh, what is it called? War of the Worlds. Was it War of the Worlds?
Yeah. Yeah, by Orson Welles, maybe?
Yes, it was Orson Welles. Yes, I know it was Orson Welles. Whether it was called War of the Worlds, I think it was. But, they did it back then. I mean, they released that. There's conspiracies that he released that, on the government's behalf to kind of see how people would react to the announcement of, aliens, basically. And I think that it caused mass panic. I mean, people were taking their own lives. They were freaking out, hurting other people. I mean, just wild stuff. And I think at that point, once that happened, I think the government sat down and said, man, we cannot come out with this to the public. They are not ready. And I think at that point they put a cap on it saying, we'll give it another 50 years, and if see how they are in 50 years. And if they're good at that point, then we'll, start slowly letting it out. And in between that time, they could have laid out a plan to all right, this is how we're going to lay it out. We in the early 90s, we'll start laying out these, well, actually even starting now, back in the 50s, we'll start coming out with these alien movies, Men from Mars, and, all those type of movies, getting more detailed as time goes on. And then, just let it come out at some point. I think it's a definite possibility.
Yeah, I was just, while you were talking, I was looking up that thing, and that is such an interesting, way that people reacted and how they like stop them automatically. Like they're like, no, you have to stop it. So, it is a really interesting thought of like, was it trying to say, okay, let's see how they would react. Ooh, it's not good. We need to do the slow, not the quick.
It's like having your own focus group without knowing you're in a focus group.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it is. It's the easy way to, like see how the world will take it, see what will happen. And it's just funny that, I mean, I just can't believe that guy came out with that idea on his own to release that story. Just the way he did, not announcing beforehand that it's just a, recount of Orson Welles' story, or, just kind of just weird, what did he think was going to happen? I mean, that's like the only form of entertainment back then is radio, pretty much, unless it's live
but
entertainment.
I feel like it's a beautiful thought. Like that was a beautiful, like, Peter, like, get them to think it's real,
no
like,
doubt
talent. But it's like the Blair Witch Project, right? And if our listeners didn't know this, the Blair Witch Project was not correct. It was not real. It did not really happen. But they did such a good job with like having people like in the town being like, have you seen our friends? And like making people believe it really happened when it came out. Like it's pretty smart in the sense of entertainment, but did not go well.
All right, so I have this thing here. It's states with the most UFO sightings in the last 5 years. So we can quickly run through and I guess to see which ones you think for the last 5 years. I know one of our episodes we did the top states of UFO sightings of all time, but these are specifically for the last 5 years. So who do you think has the most for the last 5 years? Any guesses?
Well, I think Florida, because I'm pretty sure most people who live in Florida are not from this world.
Yeah, I'd say Florida's definitely on the list.
Number 1 is not Florida, and Florida is not even in the top 10. I'm only going to do the top 10, and they are not even in the top 10.
Oh,
for the last 5 years. Yeah, I was surprised. For the last 5 years, Florida is number 26.
Well, I guess Daddy DeSantis has truly gotten rid of the aliens as he promised.
Yeah, apparently.
Interesting.
Wait a minute.
Okay, then I'm going to say like Montana Montana.
I was going to say New Jersey.
Oh. Your dog
Idaho.
You in New Jersey. Idaho.
Idaho.
Which is weird. I wonder if I'm reading this. Okay, so it's per one. I'm sorry. So that is, I am reading correctly, but I missed this tidbit. I was wondering why it looks so funny. This is per 100,000 residents. So it goes by like per residence, how many UFOs are cited. Because I was looking at it, it said Idaho had 420 sightings, but then like Florida, for instance, or California has 2,661 sightings, but that's because they have more, of course, a larger population. Yeah, so that's why I was like, man, am I reading this wrong? So that's what it is. They had it in like weird font, and I couldn't see it at first. So yeah, it's per 100,000 residents. So that's why they have more sightings, because it's compared to how many residents they actually have. So yes, Idaho is number 1 with 420 sightings.
Wow, that's still impressive for Idaho.
Yeah, any guesses on number 2?
I like Angela's guess about New Jersey.
New Jersey is not number 2. It's definitely not number 2.
If we're going by population, then no.
It's number 39. South Dakota. Nope, South Dakota is number. Where'd it go? 21 with 86.
Colorado.
Nope. Colorado is number 11 with 833.
Wonder where people see them mostly.
I
Just
know.
missed out on the top 10, Amanda.
What'd you say?
You just missed out on the top 10.
You did.
Story of our life.
Because Florida has 1,797 in the last 5 years, and PA has 1,084. So it's like, where are they seeing these? I need to find out so I can go see them.
Yeah.
All right. So
and then I guess my question before you say that, Chris, is it sightings on like I call and I say, hey, I saw something in the sky that I can't explain? Or is it like, hey, there's some green men outside?
That would be close encounters of the first kind is what we're viewing. So the close they have Dr. J. Allen Hynek. He created this classification. It's a 6-fold classification system for reporting UFO sightings. So the first one is just nocturnal lights. So that's just lights in the night sky. Daylight disc is UFOs seen in the daytime, generally having discoidal or oval shapes. Radar visual. So these are UFO reports that have radar confirmation. These supposedly try to offer harder evidence that the objects are real, although radar propagation can be occasionally discredited due to atmospheric propagation anomalies. This is the more well-known classification of that system. So this is close encounters of the first kind, which I just mentioned, is visual sightings of an unidentified flying object seemingly less than 500 feet away that show an appreciable angular extension and considerable detail. So then you have close encounters of the second kind, and that's a UFO event in which a physical effect is alleged. This can be interference in the functioning of a vehicle or electronic devices, animals reacting, a psychological effect such as paralysis or heat and discomfort in the witness, or some physical trace like impressions in the ground, scorched or otherwise affected vegetation, or a chemical trace. So close encounters of the third kind is UFO encounters in which an animated entity is presented. These include humanoids, robots, and humans who seem to be occupants or pilots of a UFO. Recently, they've extended it and they've added a fourth and fifth kind. But this is not a part of J. Allen Hynek's original classification system. And this is so close encounter of the fourth kind is a close encounter UFO event which a human is abducted by a UFO or its occupants. All right. So that's where it gets down and dirty is for the fourth kind. And then close encounters of the fifth kind is UFO event claiming direct communication between aliens and humans. So this could be, via, telepathy or any other type of communication via, they tap into your phone, whatever, it's any kind of like communication remotely, I guess you'd say.
So call back to our Betty and Barney Hill abduction.
Uh-huh.
Would we consider this excluding the extension of Hynek's scale? Would it be a second and third encounter?
For Betty and Barney, I would classify them as third and actually really all of them. And I think once you get to one to the next, like as you progress in the scale, except for Close Encounters of the fifth kind, but I think once you progress through, 1 through 4, I think it's like I finished 1 through 3 now, so now I'm moving to 4. I think it's like what do they call that? Where it kind of builds up as you go. Like you did 1, you did 2, you did 3, now you're into 4. And this is all happening progressively as the event takes on. Except for maybe not, because like the second one, but they had this as well. So they really had all of it. So they had the first one, which is where they viewed the object from 500 feet away. They had close encounters of the second kind because they had marks on the trunk of their car, and also Betty had marks on her dress. They also had third kind, so they had seen entities, humanoid figures piloting the craft, and then they also had the fourth because they were abducted by the occupants. So I think in their case, they had all four. Now, for our case, the Maury Island incident, I would say that they had 1 and 2. Because they didn't report. They said they saw portholes on the craft, but they didn't say if they. I think they might have mentioned they might have saw a being or whatever in the window in the porthole, but it wasn't enough to offer any description. So I don't know if they just seen something pass through the window where it looked like something was in there or what. But I can't say if they had the third kind. But for sure they had the first and second where they witnessed the craft and they had, physical effect by it. So the dog dying and then the sun being burned by the stuff falling. So, so it's Dr. Stephen Greer. I don't know if you guys have heard of him or any of our listeners heard of Dr. Stephen Greer. He is a huge, huge advocate for UFO research. He's done a ton of stuff with the government. As far as I know, he still works alongside the government in investigation of these topics. And he actually does these, they call them CE5 experiences. And a lot of famous people are, going on these experiences with him where they go out into the desert and they have these basically they sit in a circle and do some sort of meditation type stuff. I've never been. I would be cool to check it out, but apparently it's really expensive. But you go out in the desert, you kind of do these meditation type things, and then you look into the sky and use laser pointers to point out the objects you see. And they say that they can summon these UFOs in a sense. It's kind of the gist of it. And that's where that came from. There's actually a good documentary that's called Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind Experience or something like that. It's like a documentary. It's pretty cool. I'd love to check it out and do it, but it's apparently really expensive.
Yeah, I'm how do you guarantee? I'm just imagining some guy in the back being like, "Oh, I'm an alien," clapping hands together, "Oh, aliens are coming." They flick their flashlight back and forth. "Oh, do you see the lights?"
Oh, they don't do it where it lands. So these are you'll just see the reports that I've heard of people going and the documentary I saw, they'll just see lights in the sky that seem to react, to the things they do. So it's not like you're seeing beings or even seeing an actual craft per se, but they definitely observe lights in the sky that seem to react to the things they do,
So what you're saying is then Joe, who runs this place, has a tiny airplane that he flies at night with flashlights that he's taped on the bottom.
He has a drone. He has multiple drones.
So that would have made a lot more sense than where I was going.
A very nice drone, the amount of money he's making off of it. Yeah, I mean that's definitely possible. Who knows? It
Joe
could be
has
a
tons
hoax.
of kids, okay? He has lots of child support he has to pay, and he's got to keep it on the DL.
I would love to see for myself and see but it definitely could be a hoax. And see, what's funny is there was, because I watch all these old UFO documentaries, and I was watching one not too long ago, and there was a guy on there that was working alongside Stephen Greer, and he was kind of seemed to present himself somewhat of his security detail, but also would investigate with him. And this same guy I had seen on these episodes on the GAIA network. You ever heard of that? The GAIA network?
You've talked about it before.
Yeah, I subscribe to it every once in a while. I let them build up with a bunch of episodes, and then I'll go subscribe, binge on them, and then I turn it off because it's not cheap. It's actually a little bit more pricier than most subscription services.
That's how Joe buys his drones.
Yeah. So they have this show on there. It's called Cosmic Disclosure. And a lot of the inception of the show was to talk about the secret space program, have people on that say they were a part of the secret space program, which I would so love to do an episode on, but I really would love to have one of those guys come on here and talk about it.
Wait,
So
so
I
is
don't.
this Space Force?
No, so this is the secret space program. So this is the Space Force that we've always had that we don't, that the populace doesn't know about. So this guy that's on there, I can't think of his name right now. I'd have to look it up. Maybe I'll help our fact checker add it in later. But he comes on the show, and for a while, and he ends up towards the episodes now. He actually hosts the show, but he originally came on and was talking about his experience where he was in the secret space program, and he would like help, like, look in, like, basically do like autopsies on these beings that the government would find. But he's I like the guy. I like his personality, but I don't know. I found it kind of weird that he was like really younger when I saw him in that show, that documentary with Stephen Greer, and then all of a sudden now he's on this show, and the stories, I mean, they don't conflict each other. It's not like he's saying a totally different story than he did with Stephen Greer, but he definitely didn't talk about those experiences when he was on that documentary with Stephen Greer like he has in this later show. So that kind of makes me a little leery.
Do you think he is an alien himself, and that's why he looks so young?
Well, he could be. He looked young in the documentary, which is from like the early 2000s, but he's definitely aged since then.
Oh, so he's just like an old elder millennial. Got it.
Yeah. But he's I mean, his story seems legit. There's other people that come on there that their stories are not so tight. There's one guy in here that to me looks like it's a little nerdy, and he says, and I could be wrong. He could be tough as nails and able to kick my ass. So, and that could be wrong. But to me, he seems a little nerdy in a sense. And he says he was in the secret space force, and he's like still in the secret space force, and he's like a Marine gunnery sergeant or something in the secret space force or something like that. And his commanding officer has allowed him to come out and talk about it to help with disclosure. So that seems a little far. I remember his first name was Randy. I have to look up his last name, but it's his fascinating.
Sounds
like
I
a said,
Randy.
Whether it's true or not, and I'd like to believe it's true because it's interesting, but whether it's true or not, it is absolutely fascinating to listen to for a hot 30 minutes and even longer.
And like, I guess my thought is so many people are coming forward with these types of stories that it makes me feel like they aren't making this up. Like, I don't know. Like it just seems so like
the
so
stories
many
are so well corroborated and support each other. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Chris,
and they do. Go ahead.
Was the guy you're talking about Emery Smith?
Yes, that's him. Yes.
Good job, fact checker.
Yes, you nailed it. I didn't have to have any help for that. That is awesome. Oh, and the other guy is Randy Kramer. The other Randy I was talking about. He has several episodes on the show Cosmic Disclosure on Gaia Network. And I was pretty sure you can.
This Emery Smith guy has his own show called Suppressed Technology and Classified Products.
Oh, see, that must be fairly new because I didn't see that the last time I was subscribed. And see, that would make sense because that's a lot of what he did is he worked in like some black program that did that. He would like, experiment on this technological stuff. He also was working on it with a company that was creating like 0 point energy at one time. I don't know where that's at now, but yeah, that makes sense. That still falls in line with his story.
This is interesting.
Corey Good's another one that says he was in the secret space program. It's Randy Kramer, Emery Smith, and Corey Good. And then I think there's another one that in this, the last guy I'm thinking of, he definitely has come on podcast, and something Rodriguez. He also, I've heard him on podcast before, so we might be able to snag him on an episode.
They're kind of cool.
I would love, because his story is Oh my gosh, it's his story. Just to go, Tony Rodriguez, that's his name, Tony Rodriguez. So his story is a little interesting because basically the way he starts off, and if you hear this, Tony Rodriguez, and I butchered your story, I apologize. I'm just giving tidbits, and I would love for you to come on and give it yourself, your full account. But basically, he was in school. He didn't get along with this one kid in school, and apparently the kid would joke around and say like his dad was in the Illuminati or something along those lines at some secret society, which is to me a little odd that the kid would say that. But so, and the kid would claim that like he can hear thoughts and things like that. And one day, Tony Rodriguez like thought in his head like, man, this guy's a real idiot or something like that. And he was really offended by it. And he ended up telling his father one day, they were at some school event and the kid's father was there, ended up telling his father like, oh, that's the kid that said whatever. And his father says, that's all right. We'll take care of him or something like that. And like that night or a couple nights later, Tony Rodriguez was visited by these beings who abducted him and took him, off and basically enrolled him in this secret space program. I think there's a bit before that where he might have ended up in some kind of like cult thing or something. Like maybe, I don't know. I really feel like I'm butchering this guy's story and I would love him to come on. But basically that's the gist of it.
I think you are too, because I found a YouTube video. I don't know how accurate it is, but it's the true story of the witness, Tony Rodriguez, who spent 20 years on the asteroid Ceres, from which he traveled to other planets in the solar system and in other solar systems.
No.
Yeah. And it's part of that 20 and back program that I've always talked about, where basically they take him then, and then when after his 20 years is up, they revert him back to his original age to when he left and put him back in that body basically, and he lives his normal life like it never happened.
But he doesn't remember it?
And he's now remembered bits and pieces after time, because apparently he kept telling himself during it, because he knew that was going to happen, that after 20 years he was going to forget it all. He kept telling himself like, I'm never going to forget this. I cannot forget this. I cannot forget this. And that's one common thing from all the guys that have said that. And that's how they were able to remember.
He wrote a book about it.
Yeah.
Is it just men, or are women also included?
As far as I know, that I've personally heard the stories from, it's just men. I haven't come across any women stories yet.
That's because women wouldn't put up with that bullshit.
Yeah. I mean, and see, some of them are voluntary, and then some of them, like I believe Corey Good's story is similar to Tony Rodriguez's story, where they weren't voluntary. Like he talks about stuff like the technology that they were using. Like apparently he was in some training mission and he pretty much body was severed and they were able to like build a new body for him. Basically, it's like crazy like I'm telling you, like listen to his story. He's been on several podcasts and his story, like I said, whether it's true or not, is absolutely fascinating. Like I could listen to it again with no trouble and would be just as interested as I was to begin with. And all their stories are like that. All of them. All those guys I named, all those stories are just as fascinating. Better than any sci-fi movie that I've ever heard, to be honest. And that's why I don't believe that it's like truly fake, whether it's embellished or whatever. I don't think it's truly fake, because I feel like it would take a whole team of writers to come up with a story as fascinating as that. You know?
Yeah.
So.
Huh.
Yeah,
maybe we have to do an episode on the 20.
I want to. I would love to have one of these guys come on and like go over their account of what they, experienced. And I know.
Well, any of our listeners, if you know any of these people, please, please, please.
Yes. And anybody else that's had any wild experiences or interesting experiences, this extends to everybody. We want to take it to that level and have some people come on and talk about what they've experienced. Just, we got to start somewhere. We're still small. We're still, getting our feet off the ground. And, it's not easy reaching out to people at a podcast as small as we are right now and asking for them to come on, because it's, it's got to be worth their while, and it's not monetary per se, but it's got to be reach is what they're looking for, because they want to advertise for whatever they're doing, whether it's a book they're coming out with, or a TV documentary, or whatever they might be coming out with. They want the advertising, basically. It's not that we pay them per se, it's just the outreach. So yeah, if anybody knows anybody that's had any wild experiences that would like to come on and talk about it, definitely reach out to us. We have email, Instagram, the whole works. You can write a great review, and that helps us as well. That probably helps us the most for getting us out there, because it bumps us up on the charts. But definitely rate us on your platform of choice.
Yeah.
Our email, for anybody that doesn't already know, is thewatersrundeep@gmail.com. So thewatersrundeep@gmail.com. We have a support your podcast link on Spotify. So if you're interested in throwing a few change our way to help us build this little community and help build our audio quality better than it is, that'd be cool, because that's what we definitely use it for, because we could definitely use that. Yeah, I'd love to hear from you.
Cool. Well, awesome. Thanks for sharing, Chris. This was a really interesting story, and always gets my my excitement going with what we're learning about aliens, and I hope that we do find them out soon.
Yeah, and there's definitely way, not that this wasn't an interesting one, but I wanted to start with some of the smaller topics, alien wise, and Benny and Barney Hill is a widely known one. We did that one pretty deep. This one's a little smaller, not as much facts out about it as most of the others, but I thought it was cool because it had the whole little bit of Men in Black element going on to it. There's other cases where they have interactions with Men in Black afterwards that are way more vast than this, that I like to delve into. So stay tuned till we get into those.
Heck yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Till next time. Well, see you then.
Bye.